The question you should be asking isn't, is Jinx alive? What you should be asking is, where's she going and why? Because when you really look into the end of Arcane Season 2, it's pretty obvious that she didn't die. I mean, come on, Riot would not kill Jinx, guys. We've lost too much already. Benzo, Smeech, freaking Isha, a small child. Don't get me wrong, I've seen children die in Arcane, but it didn't hit like Isha. But I'm serious, Jinx isn't dead, and I'm gonna prove it to you, and talk about the more important questions of why she's still alive and where she's going next. Before we get into Act 3, let's remember what happened. Isha dies. Vi pulls her away. Caitlyn throws her in jail.
There won't be a trial. I'm giving you this one chance to account for your actions, all the pain you've caused.
Now, I can't justify all of Jinx's actions, but damn, you know, like Isha just died, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't get sad from video games or movies ever. Like, I didn't shed a tear in Titanic, but Isha hit me, so you can imagine how hard that hit Jinx. And then what happens? She gets thrown in jail and someone telling her, you need to make up for all the pain that you caused others. Now, I'm not saying this is the only reason for Jinx wanting to kill herself, but a contributing factor. So now let's get into the other timeline stuff of Act 3, because it is important and is relevant to Jinx in our timeline. After all, Echo does save her life.
Wait!
First, not really relevant to the theory, but just cool, we start in the other timeline, the one Echo and Heimerdinger got thrown into after coming in contact with the anomaly. In the reflection, you can see Jinx from our timeline. And another thing that's pretty cool is the vinyl at the beginning. Now, we always see this vinyl play at the start of every episode. It has Vi on one side and Jinx on the other. It has a Netflix series. But in this timeline, it's different. The main characters in this one, and I do consider Vi and Jinx the main characters in Arcane, but the main characters in this timeline, since Vi is dead, is actually Echo and Powder. Then she gives this peace sign over Echo's forehead, which is a common theme for Jinx actually. We see in Season 2 Act 2, Jinx and Vi's mother used to do this. Then in Season 1, when Echo and Jinx are lining up to fight on the bridge, we see a couple flashbacks of them as kids, and Jinx does this again. Just really showing that the past here is pretty similar. There's one fundamental change that caused this timeline to shift and end up here. The main thing for Jinx here is that you could say she's good in this timeline. Also interesting is that Jinx's hair has the side bangs like Vander, compared to her front swoop in our timeline, which is more like how we see Silco in the flashbacks. This is because she was raised by Vander, not by Silco here. Echo paints a mural of Vi similar to how he did in our timeline, but this time it's just Vi because she's really the only one they lost. And Jinx comments on this.
Vi was strong because she was afraid. Well, her fear of losing us is what made her fight so hard.
And I think this is another commonality between timelines that you should keep in mind. Vi fights hard because she's afraid of losing anyone. Think about how many times Vi has literally tried to sacrifice herself to save everyone else.
I can do this myself. No one else needs to get hurt.
And I think this has a lot to do with why Jinx, I think, leaves at the end of Season 2, and that'll make more sense later. And then Echo tells her,
sometimes taking a leap forward means leaving a few things behind.
Both of these lines are really relevant to how we end Season 2. And I realize you're thinking, oh, this is from a different timeline, but you'll see in the end. Now they're working on creating Echo's Z-Drive. Now how do they discover the anomaly that makes Echo's Z-Drive possible? Well, he says it right here.
I was playing with inversions on Jace's acceleration rune.
The same rune that Jace was given by who we now know as Victor in the very beginning of Arcane. This is really important. We're gonna go over all of this with the runes and Arcane and how we ended up where we are and who's the real hero of Arcane in a separate video that's coming out after this one. This one I'm gonna focus really on Jinx. Now this dancing scene, for one, Echo references again later, but look at the parallels to when we first see Echo and Jinx meet in our timeline. This is the moment where Jinx is helping Silco ship Shimmer and the firelights come and break up the whole thing.
Hi.
Now after the scene, Echo and Powder are sitting on this ledge, and we've seen this ledge before. If you remember back in Season 1 in our timeline, Powder and Vi sat here. But remember, in this timeline, the main characters aren't Jinx and Vi, they're Echo and Powder. Now this is also very important. What does Echo say here?
I used to dream the Undercity could be like this, but somewhere I gave up on it. Gave up on you.
I think this really has to do a lot with why Echo tries so hard to save Jinx when he returns to our timeline. He realizes that in his timeline he gave up on Powder.
Powder's gone, Vi. All that's left is Jinx, and she belongs to
You're
Silco.
wrong.
And he probably shouldn't have. Now finally, I just want to point this out. I don't actually think Heimerdinger is dead. I don't believe someone's dead unless you actually see them dead. Like Smeech, yeah, Smeech died. Mbessa, yeah, Mbessa's dead. Heimerdinger is not dead because he literally says here before he jumps out of the anomaly, back in a wink.
Back in a wink. No!
At this point, Heimerdinger has studied the Arcane for a while, and I think he at least has some understanding of what's going to happen to him. And I don't know where he went here, but if there's anyone who could find their way back from wherever he goes, it's Heimerdinger. And I know there's a bunch of stuff with Jace here. I'm not going to talk about it in this video. I promise we'll get into all of that in the next video with Jace and Victor and the runes and how it all works. Because I know there's a lot of confusion on that. Let's get back to our timeline. What's the first thing we see Jinx say when we see her in jail?
If you're here to kill me, make sure to finish the job.
Vi thinks you've changed.
She can't accept what you and I know. There are no happy endings.
Immediately, we're caught that Jinx is at a very low point. It follows up with her saying that Vi can't accept what Caitlyn and her both know, that there are no happy endings. And Jinx is feeling pretty guilty about things, telling Caitlyn that she didn't know her mom was there, referencing when Jinx blew up the Piltover Council with a Hextech rocket at the end of season 1. And after this, she starts, I wouldn't even call it hallucinating, more like she's envisioning, like this is the conversation that's playing out in her head. Now what's important here is she says,
killing isn't mercy.
and she's done a lot of killing. Pretty sure she has one of the highest kill counts in the show. Maybe Victor and Vander, aka Warwick, are the only ones with potentially more. This is a different Jinx. And what's Silco's response?
Killing is a cycle. One that started long before Vander and me, and that will continue long after the two of you.
This is all happening in Jinx's mind. This is her own conversation. Silco's not actually there, and she's coming to a realization about everything that has happened. And he says, long after the two of you, which is obviously referencing her and Vi, there was a cycle of killing.
I'm done running in circles.
She's saying she wants to get out of this cycle of killing, saying that she's going to break the cycle between her and Vi right there. She's saying, I'm done running in circles. And what stops people from breaking these cycles? The prisons we build ourselves.
We build our own prisons. Bars forged of oaths, codes, commitments.
Silco, someone who fell victim to this cycle of killing, says that he thought he could break free by eliminating his jailers.
I thought I could break free by eliminating those I deemed my jailers.
That would be Piltover to him.
I think the cycle only ends when you find the will to walk away.
Now what does Jinx see as her jailers? What's actually causing all of this? She probably thinks not of Piltover, but of Hextech. What started all of this? What allowed for the rocket that she launched? Where did all of this violence stem from? Okay, maybe it was the Hextech gemstone. But Silco saying he thought it was his jailers, but it only stops when you have the will to walk away, is telling Jinx, she's telling herself really, remember, it's her conversation, that getting rid of Hextech isn't the solution. The only way it ends is when someone walks away. That's the only way the cycle breaks. From this point on, Jinx is finding the will to walk away. Now, her first solution is not the best, but we'll get into that. There's all this talk of the cycle of killing, the cycle between Vander and Silco, and now who shows up? Of course, Vi.
Jinx?
What's the first thing Jinx says to her?
You're never gonna give up on me, are you?
She's not saying that in a good thing, like, oh wow, you're never going to give up on me. She's like, you're never going to give up on me. Because Jinx thinks there's no coming back for her. She doesn't see herself as good. She thinks she's destructive. She hurts people. I understand people watching might think, oh no, Jinx has a lot of good qualities and she's done a lot of good with her life. But that's not how Jinx sees herself, which is more important. And her saying you're never going to give up on me shows that this cycle of killing is not going to stop unless she herself finds the will to walk away.
You don't have to worry about me anymore. There's no good version of me.
What are you gonna do?
Break the cycle.
Then you get a gut punch, and look how fast Jinx is, like lightning speed. Vi asks, what are you going to do? And Jinx says, break the cycle. And the conclusion she comes to breaking that cycle is killing herself. She burns everything, the last drop, Silco's office. All the while the song is playing saying the world is a wasteland, please let me go. And I think Jinx feels like she's contributed a lot to this wasteland, and the only way for it to stop is for her to be gone and break this cycle of killing with her and Vi. And who arrives at the last second? Echo. And this time he's not going to give up on her. And I love how they're showing Echo utilize the Z drive. He's still feeling like that explosion. When he gets hit, the second he comes back, you can see the smoke rising off of him. That's how the Z drive works. It doesn't really fix Echo. That's what you have to remember. So if Echo gets stabbed or something and then uses the Z drive, it doesn't take away the stab wound, right? He still got stabbed. These burns, he's feeling them, and then he uses the Z drive before it's so much damage that he can't recover. It doesn't change him. It just reverses everything else around him and reverses his placement. And what does he say that finally gets her to stop instantly doing it when he shows up?
Always a dance with you.
Now this isn't the same dance that he just had with her in the other timeline, but a dance nonetheless. And then I don't know where this comes from. I looked everywhere for this quote line. Anyone who's ever told Echo this, I don't think actually anyone says it to him. I think he comes to this conclusion by himself.
You know, I learned from someone very special that no matter what happened in the past, it's never too late to build something new. Someone worth building it for.
I don't know where he got this from. It's either Heimerdinger or just his interactions with the Jinx in the other timeline. I thought for sure that it was Jinx in the other timeline that had told him this somewhere at some point, but I scrubbed through the whole season 2 multiple times and I don't hear Heimerdinger or Powder from the other timeline ever say anything like this. So if anyone knows where he got it from, let me know, but I think it's more like he discovered it himself and that's what he learned from someone else. Well, needless to say, she does eventually step away from the ledge, and then we have this Noxus-Piltover war, with Noxus helping Victor push to the anomaly. And sure, there are some really satisfying deaths, I'm talking Maddie, and she's definitely the reason why this bomb doesn't go off. You can see that she was the one holding the bomb, and so she probably tampered with it before she handed it off. You can see that there's a little screw placed in there. But look how awesome this is. So Mel doesn't just deflect the bullet, she also puts Maddie in a ball so that the bullet will just keep bouncing around until it kills her.
I did appreciate your warmth.
But for the most part, Piltover is getting wrecked here. Then we get one of the most hype, epic, legendary, badass scenes in all of Arcane, with Jinx flying this balloon in and the firelights leaping off with Echo having the Z drive on his back. And you see the purple lines under Jinx's eyes, which is something that Isha used to do. I think this scene and the Smeech Savika fight are two of the best moments in all of Arcane. And Jinx and Vi here are together fighting, and what does Jinx say?
I'm always with you, even when we're worlds apart.
Jinx has already made up her mind, I think, that she's leaving after this. She's not going to be staying in Piltover. She's going to break the cycle, not by killing herself, but by walking away. She's going somewhere else. Now, eventually we get to this point and Vander is looking mean. Like Dad's home and Vi and Jinx are about to get a timeout mean. And look how fast he is here. Guy is as fast as Jinx and as strong as a tank. Now we eventually win, and I'll talk about Echo's part in this in the next video, but let's focus on Jinx and Vi. At the end of this fight, we end up with Jinx on this platform and Vi with Vander on another. This is so important. Jinx has learned a lot in this short time. Remember the cycle of killing, and Jinx thinks that the cause is these jails that we create of loyalty. Like she's loyal to Vi and Vi is loyal to her, and the only way to break this cycle is to walk away. And look, Vi can never walk away. Even in the other timeline, how does she describe Vi? Her fear of losing us is what made her fight so hard. This isn't a good thing, it's a bad thing, because Vi can't let go. She won't give up on anyone. And even in this timeline, when we first came across Jinx, what's the first thing she says to Vi? You're not gonna give up on me, are you? And right here, she's seeing the problem with this is that Vi won't give up on Vander, even though Vander is way far beyond gone, can't be saved at this point. Right now, she knows there's no getting Vander back. She even tells Vi,
You can't save him!
but Vi can't walk away. Vi is literally about to die here, and Jinx steps in to save her. What does Jinx tell her as she's hanging there?
Always with you, sis.
I'm always with you, even when we're worlds apart.
Always with you, sis.
Jinx is not going to die, even though she knows that Vi isn't gonna see her anymore. Right here, she's telling Vi, I'm always with you, which is referencing back to even when I'm worlds away. She's gonna be worlds away, but she's always with her. And when this first hits, Warwick and Jinx and the bomb in her hand, all of this, big explosion, right? But if you freeze, right when the explosion happens, you see this flash of purple out of the corner. That's Jinx zipping away. That's her usual, anytime you see Jinx do her really fast motions, there's always a trail of purple. This is that trail of purple, she's getting away. And we even end with Caitlyn saying the story isn't over. She's even holding the head of one of Jinx's toy monkeys. She's looking to see if Jinx could have survived, and boom, the ducks. And there's literally no reason why Caitlyn would be looking at this stuff unless she was looking for a way that Jinx survived. And she looks down at the monkey's head and smiles. She goes and sees Vi, who is singing Vi and Powder's mother's tune, and she asks Vi, are you in this fight? I think she's asking this to find out if she should tell Vi or not. Does she have any fight left in her? And judging by the answer, I think Caitlyn does end up telling Vi that Jinx is alive. The last thing we see is this ship flying overhead, and it is flying exactly the same as the ship overhead in Season 1. And Powder says at the beginning of Season 1, when they're on those rooftops and that ship's flying over them,
one day, I'm gonna ride in one of those things.
thinks she is right there. She's flying in that ship, and she's flying away from Piltover. And even at the end, right before the credits roll, this purple flashes and it literally says in Jinx's handwriting, the end. Now, one thing that I do want to point out is who else could be on this ship. There is one character that's possible, if they really wanted to change the lore up like crazy, is this guy playing the piano. And if anyone's Kahara Jin in this show, it could be him. It looks like the exact same piano that Kahara Jin is playing in that fight with Camille. This is the Awakening cinematic. Now could this guy be Kahara Jin? It's possible. I mean, we know Kahara Jin does hate Noxus, so if they wanted to make it where he came from Piltover and he fights Noxus from there, that could be pretty interesting. Maybe his gun could have some Hex Tech influence, we don't know. But let's say that this guy is Kahara Jin, then he would probably be on this ship with Jinx, and where would they be heading? Ionia. Really look at where this ship is flying. It's flying over ocean. There's only a couple options if it's ocean. You could be heading south towards Bilgewater, but you'd really want it to go to a place that makes sense and could tie other things together. Would she be heading left? There's nothing out there. I mean, maybe I guess she could be heading to Targon or Shurima, but those don't make sense either. The place she could be heading is Ionia, and if this character is Kahara Jin, he could be on this ship. Maybe Jinx heard of this place where it's healing and people can fix themselves, and remember, Jinx is still very broken. Maybe she wants to head to Ionia and see if she could find peace there, right? And then who ties back to Ionia a lot? Noxus. Noxus ties more into Ionia than they do into Piltover and Zon. If you wanted to have a Piltover and Zon type situation where you have two different places and we're shifting between them, Noxus and Ionia could be that. This makes me very excited for whatever comes next for Arcane. Now the only thing is Kahara Jin, that's a big change for his lore, him coming from Piltover. But again, like, they've changed Victor, and I personally don't think they've changed Victor for the worst. I think Victor is actually a better character now than he was in game. And I don't think Victor and Jace are dead either. Maybe they ended up in the exact same place as Heimerdinger and they return at some point. The only character that's really changed where I'm not sure if it's a good thing would be Warwick. And who knows, maybe Vander isn't actually Warwick, maybe this is just the first iteration. And I'll get into the Orianna stuff. I'm getting way too much off track. This video is focused on Jinx, and I just wanted to stay focused on Jinx, so we'll talk about all this in the next video. Last thing that's pretty cool though is that if he is Kahara Jin, we'll see this piano again, and that makes the Awakening cinematic so much cooler. He's playing the piano not out of just being a musician, he's playing it out of nostalgia. But with regard to Noxus and what comes next, I'm going to talk about all that in another video. We'll hit on Jericho Swain, the Black Rose, Mel, where everything's falling. But the main point here is Jinx is alive, she's going to wherever we're going, and who knows, maybe this Kahara Jin, before he becomes Kahara Jin, could be on this ship, and if he is, then it would make sense for Jinx to go to Ionia. But I hope you enjoyed this video. A lot more Arcane videos coming to you soon, and then I'm going to do a large video on Embasa, her whole story from childhood all the way to where she ends in Arcane Season 2. Once we're done with all of that, we're gonna head to Shurima. I want to do a video on Azir, so subscribe if you want to see any of those. Now the last thing I do want to say to you guys is this season did show someone going through suicidal thoughts. That is never the answer. Imagine if this is how Jinx's story ended. But if you feel like you're struggling with thoughts like this, I did include some links down below. I hope that they'll help you. I don't feel like the best solution is just throwing some links at you. There's a Discord community. This is a community. You're not alone. I think majority of people are good people, and so if you reach out to someone, obviously there's trolls on the internet, but you can find people out there to talk to, and this is never the answer. I hope Echo's words really landed with you.
No matter what happened in the past, it's never too late to build something new.
But that's it for this one. Thanks for stopping by the Grove, and I hope to see all of you in the next one.